Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ask a Witch. My name's Katrina Rasbold. I'm practicing witch for a little over 40 years, and for a lot of those years, I worked professionally to do spell work, cleansings, and readings for people out there in the world. So I love to use Ask a Witch to answer some of the questions that come to me from seekers and people that want to know more about witchcraft from my students. And so today we're going to touch on one of my favorite subjects, and that is the idea of by association, spiritual cleansing. And one of the most common things I have to cleanse out of people is a crossing or a hex or a curse or some other form of psychic attack. And people want to know what's the difference in those things and how to clarify that. And this is something I was just asked this week. So here's what I want to tell you. And I want to say different people have different opinions of this. This is my practice and from my experience, what these things are. So a psychic attack, this is a little bit of a broad term, is some way that you sustain damage from the energy of another person. And that's what I call psychic attack. And it could be also from a disincarnate entity, but most commonly it's from real life people that you know and spend time with, or somebody you pissed off on the internet. It's also a new way that we have of cursing people. So, what is a curse? What is a crossing? What is a hex? First of all, let's go with a curse. A curse is when negative energy is specifically directed at you. It's coming toward you, it's targeted, and it's heavy duty emotion, bad emotion that's coming right at you. Now, sidebar that, and let me say that this can be poke the doll, stir the cauldron curse. It can be somebody actually goes to the trouble of creating a magical ritual with the intention of harming you. That can happen. There's also family curses, and that means somebody went to the trouble to create a ritual to harm your family, meaning your specific DNA line, not your adoptive family or your chosen family, but your bloodline, and to harm them in some way and to continue for generations. So it might be somebody that didn't even know you, but got really angry at your great, 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 great grandma. That happens too. It can also be somebody who just sends targeted rage to you. They don't have to have a little puppet or a little doll. They don't have to have a witch's jar. They don't have to have a cauldron full of nasty things that they're sending to you. They don't have to have tools. They're just mad, or they're envious, or they're resentful. That will also create a curse. Now, you might feel like there's a big difference in those two. And you know what? There's just not. There's not a difference in how it shows up in the egg reading for me. It's not a difference in how it feels when I put my hand over somebody's body that's had a curse. There's not a difference in how it affects you personally when you are going through the results of a curse. You can have curses in your body from the time you were a little bitty baby. Remember how Sleeping Beauty got to be Sleeping Beauty? It was because a witch got mad, a fairy got mad at her and got mad at her mom and daddy. So you can have curses all through your life. If you don't have a professional cleansing by a healer at some point, you might have curses you had since college or since middle school or whatever, because we know all through our lives we encounter people who might even be irrationally angry with us. Now that we have the internet, you could say something in a comment on YouTube that pisses somebody off, and off they go. You've got a big boom of negative energy coming in your way. Road rage exists, and that's one of the most common ways that people are cursed, because you have targeted, intense negative energy coming specifically at you that the sender forgets about in 15 minutes. But it still affects you because it's an energy and it's toxic and it's negative, and it got slammed right into you. You bump your cart into somebody who is not in a good mental state in Walmart, and all of a sudden you're cursed because you accidentally run into them. It does happen, and it happens all the time, and I see it every single day in people. So that's a curse. Specific negative energy that comes directly at you because somebody has a bad feeling regarding you. And it can even be something like you have a better house than your sister-in-law does, and she's resentful of that, or she's envious of that. It can be that you have a better job than your best friend does, and they secretly resent the fact that you're successful and they're not. They don't wish you harm, but they're causing harm with those negative feelings directed toward you. So that's a curse. A crossing is something different. A crossing shows up in the egg as a little tiny curse because it has some similar effects, but a crossing is inadvertent exposure to negative energy. This is negative energy that is not directed at you, but you're around, and it makes you cringe. It makes you uncomfortable. That's where a crossing comes from. So let's say that you grew up as the favorite child, but your mother or your father would scream down your little brother nonstop, or really take your big sister to task and be cruel or mean to them, and it made you feel uncomfortable. That can cause a crossing. Let's say you got a friend that's just a really great friend, but every time you go out to eat, they're mean to the wait staff. They're rude. They're sending eggs back that are just fine. They're just really having a bad attitude toward the service staff there. And that makes you uncomfortable. That can cause a crossing. If you've got a coworker that gossips incessantly, talking shit about other people, and that makes you uncomfortable, that can cause a crossing in you, even though it has nothing to do with you other than the fact that you're exposed to it. If you have a partner who complains endlessly about every little thing that happens, even if they're not complaining about you, you're having to listen to them complain, and that can create a crossing. And again, crossings and curses have a similar effect on the victim. So the last thing we'll talk about is a hex. A hex actually is the definition of somebody who does spell work to harm another person. So that's a subcomponent. But the thing about hexes is when they show up in an egg cleansing like I do, there's really no difference as to whether it was intentionally sent or not intentionally sent. Either way, it's going directly at you and it's negative. The body doesn't process how that negative energy came about. The body and the spirit don't care if it was from a witch's jar that somebody did for you, or a poppet somebody did on you, or if somebody was just really mad that you cut them off on the freeway. What the body and the spirit will register is that a huge jolt of negative, angry, resentful energy came right at you, and it has to mitigate that, and it becomes a part of your spirit until one of us takes it out. So that's the difference in a curse, a cross, and a hex, or a crossing and a hex. The curse directed right at you, negative energy of some kind, might be magical, might just be mundane, but either way, it's an energetic influx of toxic energy that somebody intended for you. Number two is the crossing. That's being exposed to someone else's bad behavior or negative intentions. And number three is the hex, which is an actual ritual or spell work to harm somebody. So I hope that that clarifies those things. Any of those things you should probably have cleared out of you. And here's something I'm going to tell you that, boy, my publishers did not love this. And I really got into kind of a tussle with them about it. It's not a good effect if you try to cleanse yourself of these problems. You can burn uncrossing candles all day long. You can burn cast out evil candles all day long. You can self cleanse all day long. But here's the thing: you are the one who's contaminated. You are recontaminating yourself even as you try to cleanse yourself. And my publisher said, well, you've got to have self-help. You've got to have a way somebody can do this. Not everybody has access to a healer. You've got to have. So I did my best, knowing that when I wrote the chapter in my book called Uncrossing, that is called Flying Solo, knowing that it was not going to have an ideal outcome. It would have a better outcome than if you did nothing. But really, you need a professional person who knows how to extract these things to help you. There's lots of people like myself who do cleansings by remote and get really good effects from it. You might have a healer in your area who can help you, but you need to get that professionally cleared. And it's really, everybody needs a cleansing. It's just like the way that you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, even though you do your brushing and flossing, you need that professional clean once in a while. And so, if you're feeling off, if you're feeling like you're not yourself, if you're having racing, intrusive thoughts, and those are not common to you, if you're having weird pains that can't be identified, if you feel a sense of doom or wanting to self harm and that isn't normal for you, basically any behaviors or feelings you have that are out of character for you could be indicating you have a curse or a crossing that's causing a problem for you. And if that's the case, you should find somebody who can clear that out. I do it. I've got several friends who do, all by remote, who are really good. And it's just a matter of just finding the person that you click with to take care of that problem and get that issue removed. Now, what's going to happen after you have your cleansing? You're probably going to feel tired for a day or so because your body is having to recalibrate to not having that negative energy in there anymore. So it's almost like recovering from a surgery, where even though the toxicity is gone, your body has to figure out what it's doing, your spirit has to figure out what it's doing. But then you're going to usually feel a lightness. That's the most common uh, remark that I have is, oh gosh, I feel so light after we've pulled it out. You're going to sleep really good that night, usually after you have a cleansing. And you may still have some of the negative effects only because if we have that crossing or curse in there for a long time, and especially if we have a lot of crossings because we were with this partner for 10, 20 years and they were consistently negative and a lot has built up, we're going to have learned behaviors that happened as a result of the curse and the crossing, and we've got to deprogram those. So there's lots that cleansings can do and can't do. If you're just sick, if you just have COVID or you just have a broken leg, a cleansing isn't going to fix that. It's not going to make your leg not broken anymore. But if you broke your leg because you're having a run of bad luck because you were cursed, it can take away the bad luck and the effects of the curse. It doesn't undo what happened. So let's say that you had a curse and that interfered with your relationship and you got a divorce. You're not going to automatically get remarried to that person because you have a cleansing, but it decontaminates you for the next relationship. So that's the long story of what a crossing, a curse, and a hex actually is. And I hope that kind of cleared up some of the confusion about it. Y'all take care now. Bye bye.